Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I will be discussing chapter 4. As always, all explanation will be held to the end of the stories. One time I dreamt I went to bed. One time I dreamt I was in some sort of office. Apparently I'm waiting for something, but I'm standing up as usual, just looking around. I notice there's this man near the corner of the room next to a desk, reading a book. So I start to think of how I would like a book to read, and suddenly I'm holding one. I lift it up to read it and find that it's my book, the one I write in for my poems. I was a little disappointed, so I left it on a coffee table that magically appeared next to me, along with my other 2 poem books and some of my notepads. A little confused, I started wandering around the blue carpeted room and saw one of those door window things that open up to a balcony. I opened it and was starting to walk onto the balcony. What I meant to say was that it was a balcony door. I was halfway through the door when the man looked up from his book and said, "You are Ava?" "Yes," I answered, stepping back to face him. "Good," was all he answered, and went back to his book. I paid little more attention to his appearance, and observed that he was kind of old and wise-looking. Had a brown suit with a tie, dated spectacles, salt-pepper hair. Well, more salt than pepper hair, but he looked like more salt than pepper hair that looked like Einstein, but not completely. Almost like part of it was combed back, but he seemed too busy to care much. I confirmed that since he looked like an author, well, he must be one. I proceeded onto the balcony. It had a black rail which I leaned on to survey the premises, which seemed to be some sort of campus. It had a lot of gardens separating each building, but what kind of scared me was that there were no trees, and the sun was being blocked by clouds so thick it was almost non-existent. My head grew dizzy quickly. So I turned around and looked through the balcony door to see my professor figure rising and walking to the middle of the room where my papers were. I opened the door and walked back to my books and papers, and I picked them up and asked if he would like to see them. "No, not yet," he said. "What I need you to do, though, is this." He put his arm around my shoulders and pointed to the door across the room. "See, if you go through that door over there, and into the hall to your left is my library, which I need you to organize." I honestly had nothing better to do, so I listened immediately. I stepped out of that room into a really wide hall, where to my left, as he said, were the doors to the library. Still being cautious, I went through. I beheld an almost ridiculously marvelous sight of books. Books everywhere. No place to walk, just books. Piled to the heavens on the floor, scattered infinitely on the shelves, big wide books, small thin books, everywhere, and everything covered in half an inch layer of dust. This library room was humongous. I mean 48 by 80 square foot, and at least as much ceiling room as Notre Dame. And books just everywhere. Bigger than me. So if you wanted to open it, you would have to walk across the page to flip the cover and turn the pages. There was no way in hell I was going to organize that. So I tried to have a little fun. I climbed the shelves, obviously built for a small giant, and jumped from book pile to book pile. And then it wasn't so fun when I fell and got completely covered in dust and grime. I was all, "Ew," and decided I was done. So I grabbed a book or two, put it on top of another pile, and I said, "Organized." I opened the doors and saw my professor talking to the left to some other professor about my future. I ran to the other end of the hall where there was another door. I tried to open it, but then noticed some kind of puzzle attached to it, like the puzzle games that me and my siblings used to play. But then I noticed some kind of So I jumped back where my brain rearranged it to make it look even more like a puzzle lock, with buttons and wires and gears and some shiny ornamental things. Ugh, I'm terrible at puzzles, I thought. Then turned around to see that my professor left. I ran to the other end of the hallway where he left, and the same thing on the handle. Panicking, I ran down the hallway, opened the door to that office that I was first in, and went on to the balcony. Looking down, I noticed that there was another balcony under me, which wasn't too far down. Gave me an idea. So I grabbed the rail and lowered myself down onto it. Using this method, I lowered myself onto the ground, where I started laughing, which eventually woke me up. There is a second dream that connects to this. Not as long. So the next night, I was wondering exactly who this old author was. So I went to bed and dreamt that I was in some sort of cottage. There was a nice carpet on the floor, green curtains, clean windows, obviously a small living room, and there was my author, sitting in a chair next to a tea table reading a book with one hand and the other resting on his lap. I walk around the room, then turn to look at my professor. He said, "You did not organize my library." I laughed nervously. "You should start now." He motioned to the other side of the room to a bookshelf, a normal one this time, with normal size books. I looked at it without saying anything. He got up and walked out of the cottage, but stood in the doorway a minute to say to me, "Your siblings are outside." I looked at the shelf again and then ran to the window to look outside. Lo and behold, there were my siblings outside in a sunny green garden playing with Nerf guns. I wanted to run outside and play with everyone, but I had to arrange a stupid bookshelf. Who was this guy anyway? Telling me what to do? I was anxious. I hurriedly arranged half of the books there and ran outside. I met with Lorenzo, my brother, who gave me a Nerf gun. I shot at my siblings and had a good time. But then I felt guilty and walked back to the cottage, where I found the professor talking to my mother about me and how he was going to enjoy teaching me how to be a good writer. And that's when I came to the conclusion that my mom was going to leave me here to learn how to write, and that my professor wanted to show my family that they were leaving me in good hands. I was actually pleased and excited. I spent the rest of my time asleep, playing with my siblings, because I thought it was going to be the last time in a long time that I was going to see them. And if I wanted to be an apprentice, this was exactly the way I wanted it. No distractions. I was still playing when I woke up. Since that day, sometimes in my dreams, I see it intertwined with the events. One time I dreamt I was in a garden with rare plants and flowers, and with a picture of the donors beside them, along with their name and the name of the plant. Apparently, my professor donated a pot of pink flowers unlike any I had ever seen. After I told my siblings about my dreams about my professor, that night I dreamt I was meeting him in a bakery. I sat across from him in a booth. He asked me what I had been up to, and so I showed him my dream journal. This journal. He looked at it and flipped through the pages and started laughing. I laughed too. Then he handed it back to me. I wanted to talk some more, but I was uncomfortable in my bed, which woke me up. The end. So during this time, my sister Madeline was preparing for, or was already at college. She was the first of us to go to college, and so that inspired me to pour myself into my studies, especially my English books, my favorite subject. To pour myself into my studies to be on the road to college, and even though I haven't gone to college yet, it did inspire me to take up more writing projects, to take up journaling, and my professor was a personification of those new writing projects I was taking. He was also a personification of an older person to speak to about my new projects and my love of writing. And even though he turns into a friend who I actually have, his name is Ambrose. He's someone who I can talk to and who can relate to my stories and, well, and my mysticism, an appreciation for the magic of life. So in this story and in the next stories with my professor, until my more recent stories with my friend Ambrose, until he turns into Ambrose, he is nameless, faceless, only goes by the name Professor. And he is still an important part of my dreams. I hope you all enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to Ava's Dream Chronicles for more stories. Thank you.